What's up, guys? This is Crazy Kev here, and I'm going to be teaching you guys how to do an MMA interview. In this video, I'm going to be going over multiple topics. The multiple topics I'm going to be going over is going to be how to message a fighter, how to get a fighter on your show, good names for you guys, all different kinds of themes and topics that's going to help your guys' game grow immediately, and how to make you guys look like an expert straight from the beginning. Little disclaimer, guys. I just want to let you guys know I just started my YouTube page and doing interviews a little over a year ago. I just started back in February, so I have actually done well over 250 interviews in over a year since I started back in February. So I wouldn't say I'm like, the most experienced and the most professional guy, but I will say, with doing over 250 interviews, I do kind of have a little bit of a grasp on how to kind of message these guys and kind of, how to do these interviews a little bit. So like I said, I didn't go to college for anything like this. I never went to school. I never got any sort of advice on how to do this. I'm just kind of doing what I believe is right and what I've kind of learned through trial and error. So that's what I'm going to be kind of breaking down in this video today. So first things first, guys, you got to make sure when you're doing an MMA interview that you got to make sure you have a good name. And then even this isn't for just MMA interviews. Whatever you're doing in life, when you have a business, you got to have a good name. It's got to be catchy. It's got to be short. It's got to be something that everyone can remember, everyone can say, and everyone can relate to. That's what my name's about. Crazy Kev. Okay. It's simple. It's easy. Every fighter is crazy. I'm crazy. It just makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So that's why my name is as easy as it is, and fighters relate to it. Now I did put in there no drugs, no politics. Now, obviously, you can do this at your discretion. If you are someone that is, wanting to focus strictly on drugs and talk about, maybe some research behind it. Maybe if you guys want to do politics and you want to bring fighters on and talk about the politics, maybe run a page like that. Sure. Okay. But, obviously when you do stuff like that, you are going to limit yourself. Obviously certain fighters, they don't do any sort of drugs. So if you have any sort of drugs in your name, you're limiting yourself on getting fighters on your show. Same with politics. You get what I'm saying? There's a lot of fighters that once they see politics, they want nothing to do with it. They don't want any sort of that kind of media. You are obviously going to get some fighters like Colby Covington, of course, and, other guys that are into that stuff. So again, it's not necessarily like an end all be all for your show, but it is something that, like, why do it? You know what I mean? Because it's like you can still talk about drugs. You can still talk about politics on your show, but you don't need to make it your whole identity. That's my main thing with that. Next thing, guys, you really need to understand your role when you guys are making your page. So basically, what are you kind of doing? What do you plan to do? Are you going to be funny? Are you going to be serious? What sort of questions would you like to learn about the fighter? How are you going to benefit this fighter's career? How are you going to make a cool clip out of this fighter's interview? How are you going to make this interview worth this fighter's time? You need to think about all that little stuff when you're making your page. I'm crazy. You know what I'm saying? So that's my brand. So with me being crazy, I can ask a little bit of off the wall style questions because I'm crazy. I can act crazy because that's my name. You get what I'm saying? So my identity is being crazy because that's what it relates around. So whatever you guys are doing with your name, try to make it relatable with your questions. So then your audience will then also want to, engage with your interviews a little bit more. They know what they kind of expect going into it. With that being said, the Schmo, amazing interviewer, one of my favorites and one of my inspirations. He's an amazing MMA content creator, hands down. With that being said, with the Schmo, I know I'm going to get a goofy, funny interview, and that's what draws me in. You get what I'm saying? So, like, you got to understand your role with what you're doing with your interviews, so then people want to actually watch. Next thing, guys, you have to be verified. Now, I wouldn't say have to is, maybe we switch up that wording there, but I personally have never done an interview without being verified on both Instagram and X. Just a personal preference. I think it makes your page look a little bit more professional. You'll obviously be able to message more fighters and reach more people this way. Your posts will obviously do better if you're verified. There's really just no reason not to be verified unless you simply can't afford it. Now, if I'm being honest, if you want to be a content creator full-time, it's not a ton of money to be verified. Just shell out the money. It will be worth it long-term. And, keep track of it. Obviously, write this stuff down, write down your expenses. And, if this isn't something for you, maybe a year from now, at least you always have kept track of it. And, at least you tried at the end of the day. I wouldn't always want to wonder like, oh man, if I was verified, I would have been able to do so much better with my page. If you're putting the time in on your page, go 100% full tilt, get that verification. It's super important. Before you make your page, you really need to understand what you like. So basically on your For You page, when you're laying in your bed and you're by yourself and you're looking at memes, you're looking at things that interest you. What are these pages doing that interest you? What are these pages doing to draw that attention to you that makes you want to keep, watching that meme? We want you going to keep following their page and do what they are doing. Don't copy them word for word, obviously, but mimic their style a little bit. You know what I mean? Kind of bounce ideas on what they do and make it into your own. That's what everybody does. You know what I mean? As much as everyone won't admit it, everyone does that. It's just the truth. You know what I mean? So the next thing you need to understand is learn the community. Learn the community is super important, especially when you're on X at least. I'm not too sure about maybe like YouTube and like Instagram as much. Maybe Instagram a little bit, but definitely X, because with X, there's a lot of clicks. With X having a lot of clicks, you know what I mean? They follow certain people, and with them following certain people, these certain people like the same things that you like. So this is really key, and this will really help you guys grow your page. Now, this I'll explain in another video more on how to kind of grow your page. But what I'm getting at with these clicks and what I'm getting at with these followers is, let's say I see a guy that has 10,000 followers, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to his comments and I'm going to look at everyone that comments on that page, right? And I am going to follow them. And then I'm going to look at their followers. And then I'm going to see if they comment on their stuff. And if they do, I'm going to follow them. You want to know why? Two reasons. Number one, they're an active follower. So with them being an active follower, they're more likely to see my page. They're more likely to engage. Number two, with that being said, I'm building a community. Hey, that guy knows that guy who knows that guy. So now we start slowly building our growth. We start slowly building our followers. We start slowly building that community. And then that's how my Crazy Kev Mafia grows. That's how your page grows. It's super important. You got to do that. You got to network a little bit. I'm not saying you got to message them and be your best buddy, but you got to learn who's friends with who, why are they friends with who. So then everyone's page will just start slowly growing. And like I said, I'm going to make a video on how to actually grow your page, because on each of my social medias, my X and my Instagram, I've grown it over 10,000 followers in less than a year. Again, that's not exactly like amazing numbers. I know most people have done that way quicker, but I do think I have a decent grasp of what I'm doing. Last but not least, guys, you got to be as much of a mystery as possible. This is the one thing I failed at as a content creator. If people are messaging you in the DMs, they're being nice, they're being mean, does not matter what they say. Do not answer. Okay. Everyone is trying to hurt you. Everyone is eventually going to turn against you as you get bigger. Do not give them any ammo. Just simply do not answer. It sucks. It sucks. But there's a reason why guys like Logan Paul won't answer a DM from a guy that has 2 followers. Maybe he will one day if he's really, really butthurt. But there's a reason why celebrities don't answer. This is why. Screenshots exist. People are scumbags. Don't answer them for any reason necessary. Be a mystery. Only let people know about your posts. Only let people care about your posts. Don't give them a reason to not like you or your posts. Be a mystery. Guys, so now getting into the actual interview now, really important. You got to do your research, guys. If you're not doing your research, it's going to show. There's one thing that actually stood out in my Cameron Smotherman interview. He actually said this word for word.
The only time I get annoyed in interviews is whenever they don't know like who I am, or like they're like yeah, like they just didn't do any like research, or just like basic Google search. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying you have to
Yeah.
like go deep dive through everything, but like you're like, oh, so you're fighting for Fury, right? Okay. Against what's his name? Oh, okay. Do you know anything about? I'm like, dang, like, do you? Um, but like, but that's probably the only thing that where it's just like it just kind of feels like disrespectful. They don't know anything about me, or any like you don't know how to say my name. Like, I'm like, okay, why are we even doing this then?
So always important, go on Tapology, look up the facts, look up who they beat, look up who they fought, look up when they fought them, you know what I mean, their UFC record, wherever they fought record, super important. You got to know that stuff. Um, Also, you gotta watch old interviews. This is really, really important. Watch these old interviews. Watch them on 1.5 speed if you need to. But watch old interviews, take notes. Understand what interviewers are asking what. So then when you ask these fighters a question, you're not asking them the same stuff. Or if you ask them a question, maybe build on that other guy's question where maybe they didn't ask enough where you want to learn a little bit more. But you want to stop asking these guys the same questions. It gets boring. You know what I'm saying? Like, we want to ask these guys a little bit more creative questions because these fighters are awesome. You know what I mean? They only get X amount of media. So let's make it exciting. Let's make it creative. Let's not ask these guys the same old crap because you know what I mean? It'll only help the sport. So, guys, when you are actually studying an interview, these are the couple things I like to actually study for, which I think is truly important. So, number one, especially if you're getting a guy from like Brazil or something like that, where maybe like English isn't their first language, some of these fighters like to talk for a really long time. And I actually like to time how long they like to talk sometimes. Like for example, let's say an interviewer asks a question, and then I will personally time it. And let's say if it takes like 2 minutes or so, and I only told these guys that have 15, 20 minutes to interview them, that's a lot of time that they just ate out of my interview. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to be that guy that's going to stretch it because they're talking longer. If I tell them 20 minutes, I got to be done in 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Maybe go a few minutes over if the vibe is good. But you know what I mean? At the end of the day, if I don't have a ton of subscribers, if I only have a few hundred subscribers, I'm going to obviously try and get as much content as I can, but I'm also not trying to waste this guy's time and give him all day long just because I want to try and get that maybe that one viral clip. So, always keep that in mind. Super important. Next thing is you got to make sure you understand the fighter's vibe. Are they serious? Do they like to joke? Some fighters are a little bit more private than others. Some fighters are a little bit more open than others. Some fighters are a little bit more shyer than others, where you might have to ask them a little bit more questions to get them to open up. There's just a lot of stuff, man, where you just got to really pay attention to that because that can make and break your interview if you know the fighter's vibe. Because if you understand it, these guys will definitely appreciate that a lot. Next is where are the fighters going to do the interview? Kind of figure out where they typically do it. If they do it in the gym, if they do it in the car. This is only important because some of these guys, they might have Wi-Fi issues. So that just means on your end, you got to make sure you're spot on with your Wi-Fi. You got to make sure your mic is going to be sounding good because on their end, they might not be sounding or looking the best. So you got to make sure you're doing your part at the very minimum, or also just kind of know what to expect because maybe if they do it in the gym and maybe it doesn't look the best, you could be like, hey, is there any chance you could maybe do it at your house? So then maybe you could get that little bit of a better content compared to other people. Now, this is a debate that a lot of people like to talk about. I think almost everybody I've talked about said you should do amateur or regional fighters first before you do anyone professionally like UFC, PFL, etc. Here's my take. So, in my opinion, for your very first interview, if you can land it, you need to do someone from the UFC or PFL first because here's why. These guys that are in the UFC or the PFL have done so many interviews at this point. We're doing a show where we only have, let's say, maybe 100 or 200 subscribers. Since you're just starting, it's your first interview. It's going to be nothing to them. You know what I mean? You are going to be so nervous when you do it because it's your first ever interview. They're going to be, whatever, because they've already done so many interviews. They just want to probably get it over with. And the most important thing is, though, since they've done so many interviews, they are going to be very professional when asking questions. They'll be able to carry the interview if need be. And it's just going to be a little bit smoother, in my opinion, if you are to do a UFC guy. If you do an amateur guy, some of these guys, or not even amateur, just like a regional guy, they don't get interviews as much. Since they don't get interviews as much, more people like from their hometown are going to naturally want to watch it more. They are more willing to promote it more because they don't really get interviewed much. So if you're not seasoned, it's going to show up right away. Number two, the other thing that's really important is with a lot of regional guys, even if they're a good regional guy that it's probably going to go to the UFC, it's really hard sometimes to kind of find research on some of these guys. Like, you can look up their topology, you can look up a couple old interviews, but it's way harder to find information on a guy that's, chilling in the CFC versus in the UFC. So that's a major difference in itself where you're putting that added pressure on yourself of like, you should probably know who this regional guy is. You're gonna have a harder time, just getting facts on information on them. So you just get that extra pressure as well too. I personally say if you can do it, get that UFC or PFL guy. Get someone you're a little bit more comfortable with. It will just be a smoother experience, in my opinion. I personally did, I think, 25 to 30 interviews of UFC, PFL exclusively until I did my first amateur interview. Then after I did amateur interviews, I started doing a little bit more regional guys, and then I started making it a little bit more open, and I was just doing anyone whenever I could get them. But long story short, I was very exclusive to pros, got super comfortable with the pros, and then after I got comfortable with the pros, then I started expanding my horizons to the regionals. Again, that's just my preference. You guys do whatever you think is easier for you. Guys, next thing that's super important here when you guys are laying out the messages is you need to figure out what time zone the fighter is going to be doing the interview from, and you need to let the fighter know what time zone you are in. With that being said, when you are booking the interview, you are booking it for their time, not your time. So what I mean by that is if you're trying to book the interview for 2 o'clock your time and 12 o'clock their time, you are telling them, I will see you at 12 o'clock. Don't get it confused and tell them 2 o'clock, because if you say that, even though you mean 2 o'clock your time, they might think it's 2 o'clock their time. Things will get confused. Make it easy for the fighters. Make it easy for you. It's 12 o'clock their time. Anything, it's their time. Just always tell them that. Number two, like I said, always figure out what time zone they're in to make it smooth, make it easy. That's really important. Also, when you're messaging the fighters, let them know what you're going to talk to them about. You know what I mean? That's kind of important. You know what I mean? You don't have to like let them know every single question, but just be like, hey, I'm going to talk to you about your career. I'm going to talk to you about your last fight. I'm going to talk to you about life outside of fighting. Just give them a little background so then they're not like totally blindsided. I mean, if you want to blindside them, go for it. But, my goal is to make the fighters as comfortable as possible. I'm not trying to make them say anything weird for a clip. You know what I mean? If they say something weird for a clip and it happens, it happens. But you get what I'm saying. You know what I mean? My show is just to make everyone have a cool conversation for my show. That's really what it's all about for me. When sending a message, it's really important because you want to make sure you sound professional, and you also want to make sure that you get that fighter's attention to actually make sure they'll want to jump onto your page. So, short, simple, sweet, to the point. This is all I basically like to send to a fighter. I just basically like to say, hey, I'm an MMA content creator. I'm a martial artist as well. I always like to throw in that I'm a martial artist just because I like to let the fighters know I train. I like to let the fighters know that because I do feel that since I train, they respect it a little bit more. And I think they're a little bit more willing to jump on the show. Now, if you're not a martial artist, I would just say, hey, I'm an MMA content creator. Here's what I would like. I would like to have you on my show to talk to you for 15 to 20 minutes about this, this, and this. If you're interested, I'm available this time, this time, this time. Fighters are more accessible than you think. If you shoot that message, if it seems decent, those fighters are going to be more than willing to take that chance. So make sure you guys shoot your shot. Make sure you guys do it. It will definitely help you guys and will definitely give you guys that confidence to do more interviews in the future. So when you guys are actually doing the interview, here's just some things I kind of like to do. First things first, got to make sure I'm ready 15 minutes before the interview. Make sure my laptop's set up. Make sure my laptop is charged. Making sure my lighting looks good. Making sure my sound is good. Making sure this is all done 15 minutes beforehand. So then if there's any issues with the fighters want to start early, whatever, I'm ready. I'm prepared. That's just always super important. Be organized for these things. That will impress the fighter. They'll be happy to, make sure that everything's organized and going to be smooth. It will also be, a better experience for them. They'll be more willing to work with you in the future if everything goes to the plan. Also, guys, this is really important as well, too. This is something that took me a little bit, but make sure you're okay with telling the fighter to like fix their camera or like tell them to like, hey, like, could you fix your lighting a little bit? Like, if it's bad, what I mean, don't be a prick, you know what I mean? But like, if it's like really bad, where like they're fuzzy or like they got like some really bad background noise or whatever, like, you know what I mean? So, guys, when you're asking questions, like I mentioned earlier, make sure you guys are studying questions and trying to be a little bit more unique with them. Try not to ask the same old things so then you can get these fighters out in a cooler light. Be creative, be professional, make it unique. Make the fighters remember your interview. So, what I basically mean by that is if you guys watch my Malcolm Wellmaker interview, I asked him what it was like to make a beat for Chief Keef.
Yeah, I did. That's so crazy, dog. Yeah, man, me and my homeboys, I mean, since we was like in middle school, we used to rap. And
Yeah.
I rap too. I was far from good, but you know, that was like me and my homeboy's dream. So in high school, I kind of transitioned from rapping to making beats. And my homeboys kept rapping, of course. And that was our thing. You know, we made music. I always did the beats. They always did the rapping. And that was the dream. Well, I went to Georgia Southern. I met one of my best friends there, and we made beats together. And back then, Chief Keef used to just put out random emails on Twitter and be like, you know, send beats, send beats, send beats. And bro, we sent him one and he used it. And he made a song with it, man. And it didn't release until literally like 6 years later. But yeah, it happened, man. It's crazy. He never gave us our credit like he was supposed to. I'm gonna get it. You know, when I get a name and I got some pull, I'm gonna get to him. We gonna talk. But yeah, it happened. That was big for us.
Think long about your questions because these fighters will remember your interview if you ask them good stuff. So they do lots of them. So try to make yours stand out. So then they'll come back on your show and then people will watch. Also, have notes in front of you guys. There's nothing weird about it. You know what I mean? If try your best not to like look down at the notes, you know what I mean? But like if you have notes, you know, that will really help you out. You know, try to take a peek at them. Just be organized, be confident when asking questions. That's really key. Lastly, guys, when it comes to the actual platform I like to stream everything on, I am on StreamYard. That's what I'm making this video on at the moment. So StreamYard is my go-to for all my interviews. When it comes to actually editing the interviews, I like to do everything on CapCut Pro. So I do use CapCut Pro, get that all cleared out over there. And then in terms of actually making a thumbnail, I do that on Canva. I bang all that out myself. I think that's super important. It's super key as well too, guys. Make sure you're trying to get your interviews out as soon as possible. If you can get them out that same day, if you can get them out that same week, super key. You want to make sure your news is out as soon as possible for these fighters do more interviews, then your news becomes not as relevant or someone beat you to it, even though you might have had it first. And or just, you know, when you guys are doing your interviews, it's just important for the fighters to show them, hey, you know, you want to promote them as fast as possible. They'll also be more appreciative to that. That's the one thing I also struggle with really bad. I totally overbook myself and I totally get so busy when it comes to actually editing the interviews where it takes me a little bit to actually upload them. So don't be me when it comes to that aspect. Make sure you guys upload your interviews as fast as possible because the fighters will appreciate that a lot. Now, with that being said, try your best to not overbook yourself in interviews, okay? I am a crazy person like we've talked about, and I have booked myself for 8 to 12 interviews a day, multiple times. It is insanity. It is a lot to study for, very stressful, a lot to manage. Don't do it. And then, like I said, then you have so much content you're backed up on where it makes your shorts, you know, it's going to take you longer to find shorts. It's going to take you longer to edit videos. Your drive for doing interviews is going to go down because you're not going to be enjoying it as much. Enjoy it. You know what I mean? Find fighters you like. Try and make sure you do it at a good pace. Make sure you're actually improving. And one more thing, too, that's really key is watch your interviews and be critical on yourself. There's interviews where I've cringed, like, man, that was a bad interview, or man, I shouldn't have said this or done that. And that's how I get better. I don't think I'm the best interviewer in the world, but I am somebody that will say, hey, next time I won't ask that. Or, hey, I really like that question. Or, well, that clip does really good when I ask that question. Maybe I should ask that more often because people like it when I ask that question. You got to notice these little things, and that will only help you guys grow as a content creator and also as a person. Like I said, you got to understand that, hey, you can always improve, even if you are the best. Even if you think I'm the best interviewer in the world, every single interview, I'm going to watch it back, and I'm going to be like, man, I should have did this, this, and this better. And I really liked how I did this and this. And if you're honest with yourself, you will always get better. And that's super key. One more bonus tip as well, too, guys. This is not a way to plug my channel. This is just the truth. So like I mentioned in the beginning of the interview, I've only been doing this for a year. I would highly, highly recommend you guys check out my videos and look at all the fighters I've interviewed. I would recommend you guys watching them as well, too, if you're going to study. But the reason why I'm telling you guys to check out my videos is because every single fighter I interviewed, since I'm so new to doing interviews, there's a good chance that those fighters will message you back. Because if they message me back, there's a good chance they will message you back. So look at my videos and try to shoot your shot with most of them. I guarantee you that a good majority of them will say yes. Guys, I hope you learned something new on how to do an MMA interview. I really appreciate you guys watching this. If you stayed to the end, thank you so much. It means a lot to me as I'm trying to do more and more videos every single day for my YouTube page. So thank you again for the support. This is Crazy Kev, and I don't miss.